Welcome to the show, homies. Today we've got an interview with Antonio, a self-proclaimed risk-averse individual. Someone who spent 6 years looking at Zillow, saving money, and making sure they were in the right place to buy a home. So after searching Google and seeing some posts on Reddit, Antonio found the podcast and decided, you know what, maybe I'm in the right position to do this. Well, as you'll find out, it wasn't a matter of months and months. It wasn't even a matter of weeks. It was a matter of days before Antonio got into a contract for a home that didn't cost much more than his mortgage. And along the way, Antonio realized with the right real estate team, there were ways that as the buyer, they could manipulate the seller so things could be in their advantage. Let's check this out.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
All right, homies, we got another interview with Antonio, who came to me and said he was 6 months out and bought a house in a month. So I'm very excited to talk to him about it. Antonio, tell us about your whole process. What made you reach out to ask for some help? How long have you been thinking about buying a home?
Sure. So I've been thinking about buying a home for a while, kind of been doing light planning, at least long term, since I started college. That was about 6 years ago now.
Wow.
But that was very light planning, just light, like market research, I guess. At some point I realized I'm just looking at Zillow and Realtor, and I think I have a good idea of the kind of house that we want and the price that it's going to cost us. Although that kind of changed over COVID. That was changing over COVID and the current market situation. But then I kind of realized I didn't know the process, how to go about buying a house. So I actually I Googled how to buy a home. I was like, okay, let's start it. Step 1, how to buy a home. And I think I found a Reddit thread that mentioned your podcast. So started listening, found some good information, and reached out because you're saying on the podcast that you can help us find a realtor. So yeah, reached out, and it really worked out for us. Been a big help.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that it was helpful for you. Sounds like you're someone that was thinking about this and getting your plans together. Where were you when you were reaching out as far as where you felt like you were with your credit score and your savings and all those things?
So I would say I'm a pretty risk averse person. So I was never super comfortable with where I was at until I had the paperwork saying I was good. Nice. But besides that, we had enough saved for 10% down on the house that we have right now. So we had about $20,000 at the time. So we had 10%, enough for 10% down. And one of the points that I had heard from your podcast is that it's a bit different now, that you don't need 20% down. And with the market changing, still thinking we needed 20% down, it was a little scary that we weren't going to be able to end up with a house like we have now. That was kind of the last thing before we reached out. It was oh, maybe we can do this now.
That's great. Yeah, I always enjoy, because you figure however long it took you to save that 20 grand, you're going to have to do it again to get 20% down. At post-COVID, you're watching prices go up. What was the beginning of, once you met with your team, and for someone like you who's risk averse, was it the lender that really helped kind of calm your nerves a little bit when you saw an actual pre-approval for a home?
Yeah, I'd say that was the moment that really made me calm down a bit, was being approved for more than we actually planned to spend. And yeah, seeing that it could work out. Yeah.
Were you in a situation where you ended up paying more on your mortgage than you were on your renting situation?
A little bit. So we were paying $1,200 and we bumped up to $1,400. But long term, I think it's going to work a lot better for us.
Wow. That's, $200 a month more in this 2025 market. You bought at the end of 2024 here, right around Halloween. $200 more is actually a really small margin. And for,
Right.
like you said, all those benefits that you're going to get down the line, that's going to be incredible. Not to mention your rent will probably be $1,400 by the end of this year. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I won't try to think of the years right now. I can't right now, but we moved in at 900 a month, and then 2 years later, it was already up to 1,200 in the area. So
wow.
we could see the trend where that's going.
Yeah, so technically with if that math extrapolated out, you're gonna be $100 in the black in 2 years here.
Yeah.
Not to mention home equity and everything else that you're getting. What were some of the things about the process once you got into it with the team that were things that you didn't expect as a risk averse person who probably researched the heck out of this? Were there any surprises with the process or any tips or tricks with the house hunting that you discovered?
I'd have to think. I actually wasn't too surprised about too much. I think the biggest thing that I was surprised by was how fast it all went, including I've heard about from some people I've talked to about how long the signing process is, day of closing. But now they sent a lot of that to us electronically previously, so kind of already seen things, and that actually went a lot quicker than we expected.
Yeah, that's one of those new things that the industry's finally starting to figure out, that when you sit down with someone with a pile of papers that are an inch high, and if you're asking them to just sign it all without reading it, that's probably not going to happen. So they're figuring out to get as much of that to you as ahead of time as they can.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. What were the main things that you did as far as looking at a home? Since you were a Zillow man for so long, what did you guys do together? Were you looking at open houses, or were you just picking directly the homes that you wanted and then trying to see chunks of homes at one time?
We'd start online and look at like the neighborhood, look at all of like we want to have a family at some point. I want to have kids, so we'd look at schools in the area. We had a lot of goals, I guess, on what we want our yard to look like, what we want, how close we want to be to stores, the highway. So we would look at all those things first, and then we started to go to open houses and visit homes from there.
Did you go through the process where you started to put things at a higher priority and kind of put other things further down the list? Did you have to make compromises with the home that you eventually ended up purchasing?
Yes, we did end up prioritizing, but I would say we ended up making some compromises with the home on exactly, I guess, how much yard we wanted, things like that. But we actually ended up with quite a good house for what works for us. We weren't looking for anything. I guess we were looking for something that really just met our needs, something modest, that neither of us needed something too big or too many luxuries. We didn't have to make too many compromises.
So with that in mind, would you say that the important part of what you were looking for was something that could be a stepping stone for you and your family to be, or as opposed to the forever home?
Yeah, I'd say short to midterm is what we were looking at, roughly like 5 years.
Yeah.
5 to 10, I'd say. Didn't necessarily need a forever home with everything we dreamed of, but we wanted to buy a house again with the market going up. We wanted something that we could stay in, and we'll be happy raising that family in.
That's great. And that's such a neat thing. It sounds like you got, a little bit more, had to compromise less than you thought you were going to have to. Once you got started out looking at the homes, did you find yourself in a bidding war at the end of the year? That was kind of a slower time for the market. Were there multiple buyers?
There was a pretty interesting situation where the house had a previous buyer fall through because they couldn't sell their house. And then we were part of the way through. Well, I say part of the way, but it was only a matter of a couple of days where we were talking with the seller, and the old buyers apparently came back. So we were bidding against them as well. But
wow.
not too many multiple buyers in the situation. It was just us and the other buyers.
Okay, that's a really interesting situation. This happens a lot where people have to sell a property to buy another property, but these people had already started a relationship with this seller and then they dropped out. But then when you were writing your offer, they came back. What did you guys do to beat out, the person that they already had that signed contract with at one time?
Yeah, so I guess we didn't actually have to do as much as I would have expected. And I think what happened was because that buyer had previously fallen through, yes, they had a relationship with the seller, but I don't think the seller wanted to go through that process again and take the risk again. We did make one concession that I'm not sure we would is typically recommended. So the previous buyer did already have an inspection. So when we were talking to the seller, it was an inspection 3 months old, and we decided to take that again because it was done by a licensed inspector. So we decided to take that as our inspection instead of having our own to, I guess, speed up the process.
Because I've got realtor filter in my brain, normally when you hear someone say, "Oh, we didn't have an inspection, the seller already had one," that's like major red flags. But because I understand the process and I think the listeners can get it too, this was a buyer who then went out and hired a neutral third licensed inspector for them. It wasn't the seller handing you a list of stuff saying, "See, it's fine."
Right.
So, and you were looking to differentiate yourself from them, but you also brought up a good point. The sellers are, yes, they're looking for their price, but especially if they feel like they've been burned, you can really up the strength of your offer just by presenting yourself as a solid person who will actually close on this deal, who isn't contingent on any other outside forces.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of what happened.
That's awesome. That's great. So then the experience of going through the contract, were there parts of the negotiation that you had researched that you had wanted to bring to the table, or stuff that your unicorn team brought in? Were there like any craziness with the offer?
I'd say no. It's actually pretty straightforward in our case.
Great.
Let me see. So the one thing I guess would be the house did come in, the appraisal came in under our offer.
Okay.
And so there was one thing that I wasn't sure about. Say we decide to adjust our offer to the appraisal price. Then we weren't sure if maybe the seller could retaliate in a way by not paying the realtor their fee. And so I thought we might be stuck in something there. But that ended up working out. We didn't have to do anything special with the offer. The seller did agree that if we decided to, so it came in 10,000 under our offer, and we only lowered it by 5,000. So
splitting the difference.
Yeah, splitting the difference.
Yeah, it's a common solution. Most of the time, and because you had that situation again, that's why it's different every time. People will come to me and say, "Oh, the appraisal came in low, so that means I'm going to do this." Well, it depends. Depends on the seller, and considering the previous situation they had, they were looking to come to an agreeable deal. And because you guys were putting 10% down and you had saved extra for the closing costs, you had that extra cash to cover that. How has it been with paying a mortgage instead of rent? It's not that much of a difference for you guys, but are you guys feeling comfortable at this point? Or you're starting to feel like it's been a major stretch, or did you prepare for that?
Yeah, we prepared for that. It hasn't really been an issue. We started, this is basically about what we planned to pay. In fact, a little bit more. So I had started about 6 months prior, just saving as if we were paying this amount. So then once we started paying, it wasn't a surprise.
Practice.
Yeah.
Yep. I think I just completed the 2025 Practice Your Mortgage Payment podcast. It's something that not a lot of people do, so you should be very proud of yourself, sir.
Thank you.
That's going to make it easier and not going to make you feel house poor. That's for sure. So you guys had an opportunity to get in the end of October. Did you get in the house immediately, or did you have to give them any kind of lease back or rent back so that they could get to where they needed to go?
No, we were able to get into the house pretty quick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy your first holidays in your home?
We did. Yeah, we definitely had the family over for Christmas and then had friends over for New Year's. And it's been great. We have entertainment space downstairs, like a nice finished basement that we're happy to have. So it's been working out really well for us already so far.
Going from where you were before going to here, and people always tell me like, oh gosh, what happens when I buy a house? I can't go out. Yeah, bring the party to you.
Right, exactly, yeah.
That is awesome. Well, it sounds like because of the preparation but even when you were prepared, things moved faster than you anticipated. And I think that's a really good lesson for everybody to understand. Did you feel like you were being rushed into it, or did you feel like you just had that validation from someone else that, yes, you can do this, and so you wanted to take advantage as soon as possible?
Yeah, definitely more the latter. We didn't feel rushed by our realtor. This is one thing that I wanted to say for anyone who would think that sounds scary, is that we didn't feel pushed by the realtor at all. But at the same time, when you find a realtor that's good at their job, they're going to do a good job at finding you a house. So we were getting a lot of information really quickly. She just did a great job, and this house worked out for us. We were prepared to make the decision, and we're happy we did.
That is a really good point, because one of the things that happens when you're in the real estate industry for a long time is someone asks you to sell the home, and then you spend a month preparing to get the home on the market, and then you get 5 offers the first week and you bid it up way more than they thought they were going to get. And then they're like, oh, this was too fast. We should have asked for more money. It's like, no. I'm just good at my job. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing on the buying side. And I'm glad that you were able to. So did you have an initial meeting with your unicorn buyer's agent to develop that trust so you felt comfortable moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. We felt comfortable from the first time we met. She explained a lot of, I won't say the whole process because there's a lot that goes into it, but she explained a lot of the process about what was to come and made us feel really comfortable.
And it is funny because it can go very quickly with people, and you will feel right away once we're all on the same page. And if you understand where the market's going and the prices are going to go up, then all right, then if something comes along that fits, as you said, more of your needs than maybe you even thought possible. We have someone closing here in Southern California this week that I think I've been talking to for 5 years. And the first home we saw a month ago, and we close on it this weekend because they had some specific needs with, like, they needed a big driveway. And so then once the contract opens, things start to move very quickly. But sometimes if you have the right prepared team, things can move quickly, even in the initial house hunt. We live in a wonderful age that you can do a lot of that pre-research on Zillow. Were there any other tips? You said you wanted to make sure you said that to prepare everybody for the whirlwind. Were there any other tips that I haven't asked you about that you wanted to let people know about?
I do want to say, I mean, I think it's said a lot on the podcast, but I don't think it can be stressed enough about finding a good realtor and starting that communication early. I like I said, I had done some light research online, but if you're not careful, when you look online, a lot of places might even tell you that you don't need a realtor. That can happen if you go to somewhere like a thread that maybe is by investors for investors, or someone who's flipped a few houses. But if you're a first-time home buyer, that's just not the same situation. And so having a realtor absolutely helped us, and having a good realtor absolutely made a huge difference.
We're over 70 of these interviews right now. Kudos to you, my friend. You brought up a point that I don't think anyone else has brought up. It's a wonderful, I sound like such a old silly man drink when I say this, but that we live in such a wonderful age where there's so much information, but you are 100% correct, my friend. There is a lot of information out there that is geared towards people who are buying multiple houses, investing, flipping.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't differentiate. You can't really tell.
Right.
And those people are looking at the bottom line like no other, and they're trying to save every dime they can. So for them, any sort of fee that they could, take away from what they're doing, they're going to do it. And it's also because they have they are incredibly risk averse. No, you'd want to be. They're incredibly,
I guess, risk tolerant.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether they have just tons of experience and knowledge, or whether they've got a big, pile of capital so they can do that. But that's a great tip. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that say don't use a realtor because they stink. I get it. I empathize with that. The differentiation between the investor mentality that you might find in your research versus a first-time home buyer takes a little hand holding. That's for sure. There's just too many variables that go into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm very happy for you guys. Now, John Mulaney makes jokes all the time about every room the realtor would go into. He would say, "This could be a nursery." Did you guys get that? Since you were thinking about, did you look at every house thinking big family planning, or considering this was something that might be a 5 or 10 year plan?
Yeah, absolutely. We were definitely going to every room thinking, what can we use this for?
Yeah.
How is this going to work for us? Yeah. Every house, every room.
Were there any things that came up on the 3-month inspection that you hadn't thought about, or do you have kind of a to-do list or a watch list of things that you might want to repair? I didn't even ask you guys, how old was this home?
The home was built in 1951.
Okay. And you're Cleveland area, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. We had the same. So is it a suburban track home, or is it more a custom? Like, do you have neighbors close or neighbors far?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Neighbors pretty close, relatively suburban. Yeah.
In the 50s, a lot of those homes were built like that. So then do you have anything on your checklist that you're keeping an eye on?
I should have more of a checklist.
But the roof's okay. You're not going to have to replace the roof or the electrical in a year, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing too big. I have, I guess, trades in the family. So I've had my brother is an electrician. He's looked at the house and said it should be good for a while.
Nice.
My dad's a plumber. Again, same thing. Plumbing is in good shape. And those were definitely benefits to us in picking the house. So.
Wow. That was my dog just barking in absolute celebration for you that you have a plumber and an electrician in your family.
Yeah, well, definitely grateful.
Yeah, no wonder the inspection didn't scare you.
Yeah.
See, again, it's different for everybody. There is no black and white. If you've got that situation, you're fine. What was the use for you guys for the yard? That's my final question. I'm just curious because it was something that you mentioned a couple times. Do you just like a lot of green space out there, or what was the thought process behind having that be one of your must-haves?
Yeah, I guess there's a few things. One, just generally, we like the outdoors. So the thought of there are spaces here in this city and in most cities, I think, that things can be pretty cramped and you can end up with basically no yard or a small, something that would feel a little claustrophobic to us. But we wanted some space. We love trees, seeing the trees in the yard. So that's just us personally, but also to have pets or raise a family, like have kids being able to play in our yard, and instead of having to go somewhere for that. Again, that's a small convenience. It was something that we would be willing to compromise on in that regard, but again, it turned out that we didn't have to compromise as much as we thought.
That's so cool. See, and then you end up doing what I do, and you build a studio inside your home, and you have a big old yard too, and the dogs still want to come in the studio whenever I do an interview. It's so great to have those options, and it does create a less claustrophobic I think especially a lot of people coming from apartment life don't understand that if you've got, one part of your home that opens to a yard, you feel like, some days you can feel like you're inside your house and you're next to a park by comparison.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, this is amazing. I love the fact that we broke the 20% myth for you so you could get in here before the 2025 gold rush on homes. And I'm extremely excited for you. And thank you for all the tips. And again, kudos. Investors versus first-time home buyers, something everyone out there can learn from Antonio. Thanks, bud.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, David.
Awesome. I'm always so happy to hear a success story, but what I'm really happy about is getting all those great pieces of educational information that the rest of you can use. Antonio's story had lots of great nuggets. But I think for me, one of the most compelling things that Antonio said was, obviously, the guy was doing 6 years of research on Zillow and was more than ready to buy. So Antonio's probably what we want to call a researcher, right? Yet, Antonio figured out that everything he was looking at online, it was geared towards people that are trying to invest in homes. So make sure you keep that in mind. We've got 6 years of content here that is geared just for you and is going to be vastly different than anything else that you Google. So in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop talking right now. I'm going to end this episode because Antonio said it best. When you go online and you research, you're going to find a lot of real estate information that is not geared directly to you, the first-time home buyer. Well, this entire podcast is, and there's 300 and something episodes. So I'm going to stop talking and let you go back and research the library, find other interviews, find other titles about topics of things that you are interested in, things that are specific for you, the first-time home buyer. And as always, if you've got specific questions, go to howtobuyahome.com, hit the Ask David or Ask Me for a Unicorn. And please, if you got a couple seconds, write us a review. Tell everyone else out there that this is the place where you get information about real estate that is actually designed to help and uplift the first-time home buyer. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.